The massive human warship, Harbinger, tore through the fabric of space, emerging from the void into the orderly territory of the Galactic Confederation. Admiral Taehyun Kim stood on the command bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays as the alien vessels scrambled to respond. Steady approach. No aggressive posturing, he ordered, voice calm despite the tension gripping the bridge. Let's not give them reason to fire first. Lieutenant Ju Park monitored the communications array, her fingers dancing across the interface. Sir, we're receiving transmissions in multiple formats. Translation matrix is processing now. The Confederation, unprepared for humanity's arrival, had dispatched a hastily assembled diplomatic flotilla. Their sensors would be working overtime, trying to analyze the kilometer-long human battleship that dwarfed their largest vessels. They're requesting identification and purpose, Ju reported. Should I inform them of our refugee status? Admiral Kim nodded grimly. Yes, but maintain defense protocols. We've learned that lesson too well. Across the void in the Lid Confederation vessel, High Commander Relketh of the Tyranny species chittered nervously to his council. Their weapons systems. I've never seen anything like this. The energy signatures are off our charts. His second, Specialist Livex, analyzed the incoming transmission. They claim to be refugees from a destroyed system, seeking temporary sanctuary. But, Commander, a refugee ship doesn't carry this kind of firepower. As the Confederation debated their response, the humans waited, systems primed and ready. They had not survived this long by being trusting. Admiral Kim paced the bridge slowly, eyes never leaving the main view screen where the alien vessels hung in space. 5 years on the run had taught him caution. 5 years since Earth fell. 5 years of watching humanity's numbers dwindle to just a handful of ships. Tactical status, he asked. Officer Chun-Ho Lee responded without looking up from his station. All defensive systems ready. Main cannons charged but powered down. Fighter squadrons on standby. The Harbinger carried the last remnants of Earth's military might. 4,000 crew members, the most advanced weapon systems ever developed, and the burden of an entire species' survival. Kim felt that weight on his shoulders every waking moment. Sir, Ju called out, they're sending a single shuttle. Looks like diplomats. Kim nodded. Prepare Docking Bay 3. Standard security protocols. Alert Major Sunwoo to assemble a reception team. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had all lost everything when the darkness came. Family, friends, their entire world. What remained was duty and the slim hope of finding sanctuary. In the docking bay, Major Sun Wukang assembled his team. 6 soldiers in ceremonial uniform, still bearing the insignia of Earth's United Defense Force. 6 more, in standard combat gear, remained hidden, a precaution Sun Wu insisted on. Remember, he told his team, we are guests seeking asylum. But we are not desperate. We are not weak. The Confederation shuttle docked with mechanical precision. The airlock cycled, and 3 alien beings stepped onto the deck of the Harbinger. The leader stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent blue skin and 4 arms. I am diplomatic emissary Zrel of the Galactic Confederation. These are my associates, scientific liaison Telva and military observer Korax. Major Sunwoo bowed slightly. Welcome aboard the Earth Defense Ship Harbinger. I am Major Sun Wukang. Admiral Kim extends his greetings and will meet with you shortly. The aliens studied the humans with undisguised curiosity. Humans were unknown in this sector of space, a new species appearing without warning in a massive warship. As Sunwoo led them through the corridors, Emissary Zrel spoke carefully. Your vessel's arrival has caused considerable concern within the Confederation. We have protocols for first contact scenarios, but rarely do they involve military vessels of this magnitude. We understand your concern, Sunwoo replied diplomatically. The Harbinger was not built for peaceful exploration, but circumstances have forced us to adapt. They entered a conference room where Admiral Kim waited. He rose as they entered, his tall frame straight and proud despite the exhaustion that had become a constant companion. "Emissary Zrel," Kim said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. After a moment of confusion, the alien mimicked the action. "Thank you for coming aboard." "Admiral Kim," Zrel replied. "Your arrival has raised many questions." Kim gestured to the seats around the table. "And I intend to answer them honestly. Humanity comes to you in need, but also with much to offer." As they sat, the military observer Korax studied the room with professional interest. "Your weapons systems are unlike anything in our database. They suggest a technological level far beyond what would be expected of a species unknown to us." "Necessity breeds innovation," Kim replied evenly. "When faced with extinction, we developed quickly." The scientific liaison's compound eyes widened. Extinction. What force could threaten an entire species with such capabilities? Kim touched a control on the table. A holographic display appeared in the center, showing darkness moving like liquid across the stars. "We call them the Void Eaters," he said quietly. 5 years ago, they entered our solar system. 3 years ago, Earth fell. We are all that remains of humanity." The aliens stared at the display in shock. The darkness moved with purpose, consuming everything in its path. "This is..." Emissary Zrel struggled for words. "This is disturbing, but surely such a threat would have been detected by our long-range sensors." Kim's expression darkened. "They move slowly at first, quietly. By the time you detect them clearly, they're already inside your borders." He stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the Confederation ships. "We don't ask for charity. We ask for alliance. The Harbinger is the most advanced warship humanity ever built. We offer our technology, our experience. In return, we ask for a place to rebuild." The emissary exchanged glances with his companions. "The Council will need to discuss this. Such claims require verification." "Of course," Kim nodded, "but I suggest you discuss quickly." "The Void Eaters followed us." "Not directly. We've been careful, but they're expanding in this direction. You have months at best, not years." As the meeting concluded, and the aliens prepared to return to their shuttle, Emissary Zrel paused. "Admiral Kim, I must ask, if you are truly refugees, why maintain such formidable weapons? Why not convert your vessel for civilian use?" Kim's eyes met the alien's gaze steadily. "Because, emissary, we learned the hard way that the universe doesn't welcome the defenseless. We come seeking peace, but we come prepared for war." As the Confederation shuttle departed, Lieutenant Ju approached the Admiral on the observation deck. "Do you think they'll help us, sir?" Kim watched the alien vessels, still maintaining their defensive positions around the Harbinger. "They'll help us if they're smart. They need us more than they know." Captain Minji Lee stepped carefully through the grand halls of the Confederation Central Station. 3 days had passed since the Harbinger's arrival. The lower gravity made her movements look strange to the aliens watching her. She felt like she was floating with each step. Behind her walked 4 other humans, all wearing the formal blue uniforms of Earth's diplomatic corps. They represented the last organized government of humanity. On their shoulders rested the hope of finding a new home. "The council chamber is ahead, Captain," said her alien guide, a short purple being with 6 limbs. "All 27 species have gathered to hear your petition." Minji nodded. "Thank you. We are ready." The doors slid open to reveal a massive circular room. Beings of all shapes and sizes sat in rising tiers around a central speaking platform. Some looked almost human. Others were so alien that Minji couldn't tell which parts were faces and which were limbs. As the humans entered, a low murmur spread through the chamber. Many counselors leaned forward for a better look at the newcomers. Minji stepped onto the speaking platform. A soft blue light activated, marking her as the recognized speaker. "Honored Council, I am Captain Minji Lee of Earth," she began, her voice clear and steady. "We thank you for this opportunity to address the Galactic Confederation." Council leader Drav Na rose from the highest tier. The alien skin was nearly transparent, showing shadowy organs beneath. Dravna's voice was musical but firm. "Captain Lee, the Council has reviewed your initial data package. While we sympathize with your refugee status, many questions remain." Minji bowed slightly. "We are open to all questions. Your battleship," Dravna continued, "carries weapons capable of destroying entire worlds. Our analysts have confirmed this. Such power has no place in peaceful space." The chamber filled with sounds of agreement from many counselors. Minji's diplomatic smile remained fixed on her face. "With respect, Council Leader, we developed these technologies because we had to. Our homeworld was not peaceful. We faced extinction and built what was necessary to survive." "And yet," came a voice from another tier, "you bring weapons of war to our peaceful confederation." Minji turned to face the speaker, a reptilian being with gleaming scales. "Counselor, would you face a predator unarmed? Would you send your children into danger without protection? We lost our world. We will not risk losing what remains of our people." The debate continued for hours. Some counselors supported the humans. Others demanded they disarm or leave Confederation space. In the end, a temporary agreement was reached. The humans could stay for now, under observation. Later that evening, back on the Harbinger, Security Director Junsu Choi entered Admiral Kim's private office. His face was tight with anger. "They've been scanning us, sir," he reported. 3 separate attempts to penetrate our firewalls in the last 6 hours. Admiral Kim looked up from his desk, his eyes narrowing. "Source: 2 from Confederation security vessels, 1 from a ship identified as belonging to the Krell Compact." Junsu handed over a datapad. "The Krell attempt was the most aggressive. They're known technology thieves according to our briefings." Kim's expression hardened. "Activate countermeasures protocol. Non-lethal response only, but make it clear we're aware." "Yes, sir." Junsu hesitated. "Sir, if they're already trying to steal our technology." "They're testing us," Kim finished, "seeing how we respond to provocation. Make sure our people understand, measured responses only. We need allies, not enemies." The following morning, the Krell ship made its move. It approached the Harbinger under the pretense of a ceremonial flyby, then suddenly activated powerful scanning beams targeted at the human vessel's weapon systems. Within seconds, the Harbinger responded. A focused energy pulse, precisely calculated, struck the Krell ship. It disabled their main power systems without causing any permanent damage or casualties. The Krell vessel drifted, emergency systems blinking pathetically as the Harbinger maintained position. "Open a channel," Admiral Kim ordered from the bridge. Lieutenant Ju Park nodded. "Channel open." "Sir." Kim spoke clearly, knowing his words would be recorded and analyzed by the entire Confederation. "Krell vessel, this is Admiral Kim of the Earth ship Harbinger. Your aggressive scan was detected and countered. We have caused no permanent damage to your systems. Power will return in approximately 20 minutes. He paused, then added, "We came in peace. Please respect our boundaries." Within an hour, the Confederation Council called an emergency session. Captain Minji and her team were summoned immediately. The council chamber was chaotic when they arrived. Representatives shouted over each other, some demanding the humans be expelled from Confederation space, others calling for a full investigation of the Krell. Council leader Dravna finally restored order. "Captain Lee, your vessel has attacked a Confederation membership. This is a serious violation of our laws." Minji stood calmly before the angry council. "With respect, we responded to an unprovoked attack on our systems. The Krell attempted to steal military technology without permission. Our response was measured and caused no injuries. You disabled a sovereign vessel," shouted the Krell representative, a stocky being with metallic-looking skin. "You attempted to hack a refugee ship," Minji replied evenly. "Would any nation here allow such an intrusion without response?" The debate raged for hours. Security recordings were reviewed. Technical experts testified. Finally, Dravne called for a recess. In a private antechamber, Minji met with a small group of sympathetic counselors. An elderly being with 4 eyes and wispy white hair spoke gently. "Young one, while the Krell were clearly in the wrong, many fear your people's capabilities. That tiny energy pulse disabled the warship instantly. What else can your vessel do?" Minji looked at each alien face before responding. "What we did was defensive. What we could have done." She let the words hang in the air. The counselors shifted uncomfortably. "You should know," she continued quietly, "that we are not the predators you should fear. We're running from something far worse." The elderly counselor leaned forward. "These void eaters your admiral mentioned." Minji nodded. "They destroy our entire solar system. Billions of humans gone. We are the survivors, and we carry the weapons we need to make sure humanity doesn't disappear completely." When the council reconvened, the mood had shifted. The Krell representative had been quietly replaced. Dravne announced that after reviewing the evidence, the council found the Krell ship had violated Confederation law by attempting unauthorized access to the human vessel. As Minji and her team left the chamber, Admiral Kim contacted her via secure comm. "Well done, Captain," he said, his voice tired but relieved. "Thank you, sir," she replied quietly. "But this is just the beginning. They're afraid of us." "Yes," Kim agreed. "And soon they'll understand why that fear is better directed elsewhere." Our long-range sensors picked up something at the edge of this sector, something familiar. Minji felt cold dread settle in her stomach. The void. "Too early to be certain," Kim said, "but we should prepare the council. They need to know what's coming." Minji looked out a viewport at the glittering expanse of the Confederation station, bustling with alien life and commerce, so much like Earth had been before the darkness came. "They're not ready," she whispered. "No," Kim agreed grimly. "They're not." Admiral Kim stood tall as he faced the full Confederation Grand Assembly. 1 week had passed since the incident with the Krell ship. The Grand Chamber was packed with representatives from all 27 species. Even minor officials and aides crowded the upper balconies, drawn by rumors of an important announcement. Council leader Dravne called for order. "This emergency session has been called at the request of the human delegation. Admiral Kim will address the assembly." Kim stepped forward, his weathered face grave. "Thank you, Council leader. What I am about to share will be difficult to hear, but it cannot wait." He activated a small device on his wrist. A massive holographic display bloomed in the center of the chamber. 3-dimensional images of twisted, shadow-like entities filled the room. They moved like living smoke, with hints of teeth and claws forming and dissolving within their dark mass. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. "We call them Void Eaters," Kim explained, his voice flat. "They consumed our solar system over the course of 5 years. Earth, our homeworld, fell 2 years ago." The images shifted to show planets being enveloped in darkness, then crumbling from within. The recording showed cities falling, people running, fleets of ships being swallowed by living shadow. 8 billion humans lived in our solar system, Kim continued. Now only 40,000 remain, scattered across a handful of ships like the Harbinger. The chamber was so quiet that Kim's voice seemed to echo. Every alien eye was fixed on the horrifying images. Science Director Haijin Ryu stepped forward. She was small compared to most aliens in the room, her slender frame belying her authority. Her voice was clear and precise. "I've reviewed Confederation deep space telemetry from the past 18 months, she said. "After applying the detection algorithms we developed on Earth, we found something disturbing." She tapped a control, and the display changed to show a map of Confederation space. Several points on the outer edges glowed with red warning signals. "Void Eater infiltration in the outer rim sectors," she stated simply. "They're already here." The chamber erupted in panic. Delegates jumped to their feet, shouting questions and demands. Some called for immediate military action. Others insisted the humans must be mistaken. A few accused the humans of fabricating the threat. Council leader Dravna hammered a ceremonial staff against the floor, the booming sound eventually restoring order. How can we be certain these are the same entities? Dravna asked. Perhaps they are simply similar to something you encountered. Admiral Kim nodded to Fleet Commander Junso Kang, who stepped forward. Tall and broad-shouldered, he had the bearing of a career soldier. We can show you, Junso said. With your permission, I'll demonstrate our combat simulations against the Void Eaters. At Dravna's nod, Junso activated a new holographic display. It showed human soldiers in advanced armor fighting against the shadow creatures. The aliens watched in horror as the virtual humans executed maneuvers with ruthless efficiency, adapting to impossible scenarios. Where the shadows touched, human soldiers died instantly, yet the humans pressed on, using specialized weapons that emitted pulses of blue-white energy. The shadows recoiled from these beams, but kept coming in endless waves. This is not imagination, Juncio explained. This is recorded combat footage from the fall of Mars, our fourth planet. We've adapted it into training simulations. He paused, looking around the chamber. Humans evolved on a world that tried to kill us daily. We fought each other for millennia before achieving unity. Every human is a product of natural selection that favors violence as a survival trait. Silence hung in the air as the aliens processed this statement. Many shifted uncomfortably in their seats. And despite all that, Juncio concluded quietly, the Void Eaters nearly wiped us out. A tall insectoid delegate rose from the middle tier. If these creatures are so dangerous, how did you escape at all? Admiral Kim answered. At great cost. We discovered that certain energy frequencies can disrupt their physical form temporarily. The Harbinger carries our most advanced weapon systems designed specifically to fight the Void. But even these only slow them down. An elderly delegate with pale blue skin spoke next. What do these creatures want? Territory. Resources. They consume, Kim said simply. Energy. Matter. Life. Everything. We don't know if they're truly sentient or simply a force of nature. What we do know is they cannot be reasoned with, appeased, or deterred. They can only be fought. Science Director Hyjin added, they start small, isolated outposts, remote stations. By the time they reach populated worlds, they'd grown too powerful to stop easily. The council debated long into the night. Some demanded the humans share all their weapon technology immediately. Others insisted on forming a committee to study the problem. A few even suggested the Confederation should abandon the threatened sectors and create a buffer zone. Admiral Kim watched it all with growing frustration. On Earth, they had debated too, while the Void grew stronger. As the session finally adjourned near midnight, Kim returned to the Harbinger with his team. They gathered on the bridge, tired but alert. They're not ready, Captain Minji Lee said, voicing what they all thought. They've never faced extinction before. They don't understand how quickly this will happen. Kim nodded. We didn't understand either, until it was too late. Suddenly, Lieutenant Ju Park called out from her communication station. Admiral. Emergency transmission coming in from the Calamar sector. The main view screen activated, showing a terrified alien face. The transmission was breaking up, filled with static. Under attack. Unknown entities have penetrated the station. They're absorbing everything they touch. Send help immediately. We can't. The alien looked over its shoulder, eyes widening in terror. A shadow moved across the screen, and the transmission cut to static. The bridge fell silent. Every human there had seen this before, the beginning of the end. Admiral Kim straightened his shoulders. Sound battle stations. Prepare the Harbinger for immediate departure to the Calamar sector. As alarms blared throughout the ship, Kim opened a channel to the Confederation Council. This is Admiral Kim. An outpost in the Calamar sector has gone dark. Its final transmission showed Void Eater activity. The Harbinger is responding. He paused, then added firmly, any Confederation vessels wishing to join us will be welcome. But we are going, with or without you. As the transmission ended, Kim looked at his bridge crew, the survivors of Earth, the last defenders of humanity. "It begins again," he said quietly. "But this time, we're ready." The Harbinger's engines powered up, glowing with blue fire as the massive warship prepared to meet darkness with light. The sky above Elysium turned black as night in the middle of day. Not the darkness of clouds, but something worse. Living shadow that moved with purpose. 11 million people from a dozen alien species ran for evacuation ships as the Void Eaters descended through the upper atmosphere. Confederation defense ships fired wildly at the darkness. Their weapons passed through the shadows without effect. One by one, the defending ships went dark as the void touched them. On the planet's surface, panic spread through the evacuation zones. Parents clutched children of all species. Officials shouted contradicting orders. No one had faced this enemy before. No one knew what to do. Then a brilliant flash of light tore through the darkness above. The Harbinger had arrived. The massive human battleship cut through space like a knife, its weapon systems fully activated. Blue-white energy beams lanced from its hull, striking the void entities with precision. Where the beams hit, the shadows recoiled and thinned. Behind the Harbinger came 3 Confederation cruisers, hastily equipped with modified weapons based on human designs. They followed the human ship in tight formation, copying its movements. In the main evacuation center, Major Dongyan Li jumped from a human shuttle with 50 armored soldiers. They carried strange weapons that hummed with power. The aliens stared in shock as the humans ran toward the approaching shadows instead of away. Major Li connected his comm system to the Confederation Defense Channel. "This is Major Li of Earth Defense Force. All units listen carefully. Standard weapons are useless against these entities." He pointed to where shadows were seeping through building walls. "Concentrate fire on the node points, the darker, denser areas. Don't waste energy on the tendrils. They're just extensions of the main organism." The alien commander, a tall reptilian, looked doubtful. "How can we trust you? We've never fought these things before." "We have," Li replied simply. He raised his weapon and fired. A pulse of blue energy struck a node point in the approaching shadow. The darkness writhed and pulled back. "Now follow my lead or die where you stand." Above the planet, Admiral Kim stood on the Harbinger's bridge. The view screen showed a massive concentration of void entities directly ahead. "All weapons locked on primary target," reported Lieutenant Park. "Confederation ships are in supporting position." Kim nodded. "Execute attack pattern Omega. Full power to forward shields." The Harbinger accelerated, charging directly toward the largest mass of shadow. Its main cannons fired in sequence, carving a path through the darkness. On the bridge of the Confederation flagship, Commander Relkath watched in horror. "They're heading straight into the densest concentration. They're insane." His tactical officer, studying the battle with wide eyes, suddenly understood. "No, they're drawing the Void Eaters away from the population centers. The shadows are following them, moving away from the evacuation zones. They're sacrificing themselves to save our people." Relkath stared at the tactical display. It was true. The shadows were shifting, pulled toward the Harbinger like moths to flame. But the Harbinger wasn't sacrificing anything. As the void closed around it, the human battleship executed a series of precise maneuvers that Confederation ships could never have managed. It cut through the darkness with its energy weapons, creating gaps in the void entities, then accelerated through those gaps before they could close. "Impossible," whispered Relkath. "No ship can move like that." His tactical officer's voice was filled with awe. "They've been fighting these things for years. They've learned how to dance with death." On the planet's surface, Major Li led his troops and their alien allies in a fighting retreat. They formed a protective ring around the evacuation centers, their specialized weapons holding the shadows at bay just long enough for ships to launch. "Fall back by sections," Li shouted over the comm. "Group 1 holds while Group 2 retreats 50 meters, then switches. Keep moving toward the landing pads." An alien soldier fell beside Lee, touched by a shadow tendril. His body crumbled to dust in seconds. Lee fired 3 quick shots at the responsible node, driving it back. "We can't hold much longer," shouted one of his lieutenants. Lee checked his tactical display. "We don't need much longer. Final evacuation ships launch in 10 minutes. We hold until then." Hour after desperate hour, the battle continued. In space, the Harbinger led the Shadows on a deadly chase, drawing them away from the escape routes. On the ground, Lee's forces created a shrinking perimeter of safety for the evacuees. When the last civilian ship cleared the atmosphere, Lee gave the final order: "All ground forces, immediate extraction. Move to emergency shuttles now." His soldiers threw down automated defense beacons designed to distract the void, then ran for the waiting shuttles. As they lifted off, Lee looked down at the beautiful world below, now partly covered in living darkness. Another world lost to the void. In orbit, the Harbinger continued its deadly dance with the Shadows. When sensors confirmed that all evacuation ships had jumped to safety, Admiral Kim gave the order: "All ships, execute emergency jump to rallying point. Now." The Harbinger and its Confederation allies vanished into hyperspace, leaving the Void Eaters behind to consume an empty world. At the rallying point, a gas giant's moon far from Elysium, Admiral Kim met with the Confederation High Command. 11 ships had joined the battle. Only 7 returned. "You saved nearly 10 million lives," said Council Leader Dravna. "The Confederation owes you a great debt." Kim's face showed no satisfaction. "This was one battle," he told them bluntly. "There will be many more. You must adapt or die." He activated a holographic display, showing the pattern of void incursions. "They're moving faster now, learning from each encounter. Standard Confederation weapons and tactics are useless. You need to implement our designs immediately." Commander Relketh, who had seen the Harbinger's impossible maneuvers firsthand, stepped forward. "My ship and crew are at your disposal, Admiral. Teach us to fight like humans." One by one, other commanders joined him. By day's end, even the most skeptical members of the High Command had been convinced. The Treaty of Mutual Defense was signed that evening in the Harbinger's main conference room. Under its terms, humans would lead the war effort against the Void Eaters, with full Confederation support. Human weapons designs would be shared. Human tactical advisors would be assigned to all major Confederation vessels. As the ceremony concluded, Captain Minji Lee joined Admiral Kim on the observation deck. Together, they watched Confederation engineers swarming over their allied ships, beginning the modifications that might give them a fighting chance. "Will it be enough?" Minji asked quietly. Kim's tired eyes reflected the distant stars. "I don't know, but for the first time since Earth fell, we're not alone." He turned to look at the busy activity on the ships below. "We have allies now. Maybe that will make the difference." In the darkness between stars, the void continued to spread. But now, for the first time, it faced a united galaxy. 6 months after the Battle of Elysium, the war against the void had reached a turning point. 50 ships of the combined human Confederation fleet hung in orbit around Harmonix, the gleaming capital world of the Galactic Confederation. Home to 5 billion beings from 24 species, it was the heart of civilization in this part of the galaxy. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, watching the defensive grid activate around the planet. Thousands of orbital platforms powered up, ready to face the coming darkness. "Final status report," he ordered. Commander Sumgo Park, his executive officer, nodded crisply. "All ships report ready, Admiral. Confederation crews have completed all required training. Ground defenses are at full strength. Civilian evacuation protocols are in place." Kim nodded, his face grim. For 6 months, they had been preparing for this moment. Intelligence gathered from scout ships confirmed that the Void Eaters were massing for a major assault on Harmonix. This would not be a probing attack like Elysium. This would be an all-out invasion. "They're coming for us," Kim said quietly. "The Void knows we're the biggest threat now." Sung-ho nodded. We'd hurt them. That's new for them. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Lieutenant Ju Park's fingers flew across her sensor station. Multiple spatial anomalies detected. She called out. Distance. 8 light minutes and closing fast. The main view screen showed empty space, then a darkness like a tear in reality itself. The tear widened, and shadowy forms poured through. Hundreds of void entities, Ju reported, her voice steady despite the horror they all felt. Largest concentration we've ever recorded. The skies above Harmonex darkened as the void entities spread like ink in water. The gleaming towers of the capital city dimmed in the unnatural darkness. Admiral Kim stood tall. All ships, battle formation Delta, prepare to engage. The Harbinger moved forward, leading the fleet. The 50 vessels, human designs with Confederation modifications, moved with perfect coordination. 6 months of relentless drills had forged them into a single weapon. As the Harbinger positioned itself above the capital city, directly in the path of the largest void concentration, Kim gave the order they had been waiting for. Activate primary systems. For the first time since entering Confederation space, the Harbinger revealed its true power. Hidden weapons arrays emerged from previously seamless hull sections. Panels slid open to reveal massive cannons that glowed with blue-white energy, unlike anything the Confederation had ever seen. In the secure bridge section reserved for observers, the Confederation representative gasped audibly. All this time, you had these weapons. Commander Sung-ho turned to the alien diplomat. We kept some capabilities in reserve. Trust is earned. The diplomat stared at the massive weapon systems now powering up. Are those antimatter cannons? Something better, Sung-ho replied. Something we developed in our final days on Earth. Admiral Kim's voice cut through the moment. All ships, engage primary targets. Fire at will. The battle that followed was unlike anything seen before in the galaxy. The Harbinger moved like a living thing, its massive bulk somehow agile and precise. It fired its main cannons in perfect sequence, creating devastating energy patterns that tore through the void entities. The rest of the fleet followed the Harbinger's lead, executing complex maneuvers that no individual ship commander could have planned. This was human battle doctrine at its finest. Tactics honed through millennia of warfare against themselves, now turned against a common enemy. On the surface, human ground teams coordinated the planet's defenses. Major Dong-Yin Lee, now a hero among Confederation forces, led the defense of the capital city itself. Hold the line, he shouted as shadow tendrils probed the energy barriers. Remember your training. Target the node points. For 3 hours, the battle raged in space and on the ground. The void pressed forward, consuming smaller ships that strayed from formation. But the main fleet held, and the Harbinger continued its deadly dance at the center of the storm. Then, just as the battle reached its peak intensity, new signals appeared on long-range sensors. Admiral, Lieutenant Ju called out. 7 unknown vessels just emerged from hyperspace at Sector 4. The bridge crew tensed. More enemies. But as the ships came into visual range, Kim's eyes widened in shock. He recognized those configurations, ships he had thought lost forever. The Artemis Battle Group. He breathed, genuine emotion cracking his composure for the first time in months. They survived. The 7 human warships, previously unknown even to the Harbinger's crew, moved smoothly into formation with the fleet. Their captain's face appeared on the main view screen. Admiral Kim, said Captain Taho Ri, his scared face breaking into a rare smile. Sorry we're late. It took us a while to find you. Kim could barely speak. We thought you were all dead. After Mars fell. We've been running, Taho explained, just like you. But now we're here, and we brought some new toys. The Artemis Battle Group opened fire with weapons even more advanced than the Harbingers. Their energy signatures were off any known scale, technologies developed in desperate isolation by the scattered remains of humanity. The Void Eaters, now facing unexpected resistance and fresh human reinforcements, began a chaotic retreat. Their coordinated attack broke apart as each entity sought to escape the devastating human weapons. For the first time in recorded history, they had failed to consume a target world. In the weeks that followed, as the Confederation celebrated and rebuilt, Admiral Kim addressed the Grand Assembly. All 27 species gathered to hear him speak, no longer seeing humans as dangerous refugees but as saviors. The Void Eaters made one critical mistake, Kim told them, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. They didn't finish us when they had the chance. He looked out at the alien faces, no longer afraid of humans, but perhaps understanding why they should be. Humanity evolved as survivors, he continued. When pushed to the brink, we don't surrender. We transform. We adapt. We overcome. Kim's weathered face showed the hint of a smile, but his eyes remained serious, knowing the long war still to come. The Void Eaters have awakened humanity's darkest survival instincts. They thought they were the predators. He paused. They were wrong. As Kim concluded his speech, cheers erupted throughout the chamber. A new alliance had been forged in fire and shadow, one that might actually stand a chance against the darkness. Across the galaxy, the word spread quickly. The nightmare predators weren't the shadows from the void. They were the humans who fought them. And thankfully for now, they were allies.